Welcome to the Melinda Eitzen Show. I'm Melinda. Today, I have a guest I have been trying to get on this show for 3 years. Jennifer Leister is here to talk to us, and she is fabulous. She's a mental health professional, and we are going to talk about the child specialist role in collaborative cases. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, Melinda. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're on.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so let's assume not everybody knows what the child specialist role is. So give us a little short definition and then we'll dive into the specifics.
The child specialist role is a position inside collaborative law, so I'm considered a neutral in the proceedings. And the child specialist kind of goal or objective purpose is to interview the children, gather information that is unique and relevant to the family system, information the mom or dad might want to help them make decisions regarding their parenting plan or any issues or concerns that they have. But the beauty of the child specialist is truly to gather information from the children's perspective so the parents can take that information into their decision making.
I love the child specialist role. I joke that I'm going to have a child specialist on every case, whether they have children or not. Not really. Okay, so I think a lot of people are familiar with the neutral mental health professional that is more common in a collaborative case. It's very common to have the neutral mental health and the neutral financial professional. How does this role differ? And is it in addition to the neutral mental health professional?
So I'll answer your second question first.
Mhm.
Yes, it is in addition to. And so the child specialist, while it is a neutral role, I always feel like I'm really not 100% neutral because I'm really there as the voice of the children, and children aren't neutral in their family.
Oh,
And
good
so
point.
yeah, and so while under the collaborative umbrella, right, I am neutral because I'm not hired by mom or dad, right? I'm hired by the process, I'm hired by both of them. And so I am neutral to bring them the data in a very neutral way. So I don't make custody recommendations. I don't tell them what to do or how to do it. I'm just bringing them the information from their children, which is very similar to the financial or the mental health neutral role, right? Because they're also neutral and not there to make decisions, they're to help them navigate the information and to have the conversations to make informed decisions. My role is very similar to that, except for I'm bringing very specific information that is needed for them to complete the process.
So, in my experience, am I correct that you're not necessarily on the team from the very first meeting to the very last meeting? You come in, do your thing, and exit.
Absolutely. And that is really, I think, the beauty of my role is that I am in addition to the team, but it is a short term role. And so it really can be cost effective, time sensitive. I can get things done from beginning to end in a pretty short amount of time to gather information. But also, the thing that I love most about that is in the short amount of time, children get to ask their questions. I get to give a lot of education about what divorce means, what living in two homes mean. I can assess for any type of anxiety or stress or adjustment concerns, answer those questions because it is not therapy. It is truly a non-therapeutic role. It is a forensic role, but it doesn't mean I still can't meet kids' needs through question and answer and just child appropriate conversations, whether they're 4 or 14, or really I've worked with adult children in the child specialist role. So regardless of the kid's age, they're still children of the divorce. And so, in my small role, that is really usually 5 hours or less, um, a lot of good education and information can be provided and received.
Now, I think if someone heard we're getting the voice of the child or we're getting feedback from the children, they would immediately jump to, so are you asking the children who they want to live with and you're telling us?
Right. And absolutely not. If a child specialist did that, I would probably like, what? No, we never do that. I just don't think that question is ever appropriate. Whether they're teenagers, even if they're 17, I still don't think that's ever an appropriate question. And I would urge anyone doing child specialist or divorce work in general, don't ever ask a child where they want to live. It's, in my opinion, a pretty inappropriate question.
Okay, so how do you get, what information are you trying to get and how do you get it?
Oh, great question. So, a multi-part answer. In a, I'm going to call it like a normal, traditional, very healthy divorce. healthy family, healthy parents, healthy children. So no mental health diagnoses, no addiction issues, no big red flags, right?
No danger.
No danger. So in a healthy system, which by the way, still can use a child specialist, in those cases, I'm gathering all the information that the mental health neutral also gathers to help them decide on their parenting plan. So I ask children, with parents' permission, of course, I'll go through all the custody schedules that are allowed under the family code. And so I'll ask them, tell me what you like, don't like. What do you feel? What's your initial reaction? Tell me more about how you see this fitting into your life, your extracurriculars, your job, your AP classes, your baseball gear, moving between the two homes. And so I gather all kinds of information about all of the schedules. And I am very clear, regardless of age. I even say this to, sweet peas that are 6 years old. Don't worry, you are not deciding the schedule. Mom and dad make all decisions. They just want to know what you think, how you feel, which ones feel good, which ones cause you stress or worry, which ones make sense to you, how many days you can go before you miss mom or miss dad with littles, how many sleeps can you go, right? So I'm always gathering information from a very macro lens, trying to ask all kinds of questions. So they're telling me about all of the schedules. That's the information I provide back. So
Do you ever get a surprising answer? Like we think, oh, they're going to say, I have to see my mom every 5 minutes. But do they talk about things that have nothing to do with mom and dad that are worrying them?
oh, all the time.
Give
All the
an
time.
example.
Um, I've had kids really worry a lot about their pets. So while I can go, and a lot of like elementary age kids, because I use the word sleeps, right? Because really know on the calendar how many days, if they don't go to like sleepaway camp or, do extended vacations with friends, like it's really hard to imagine how many days can I really go without seeing my mom or my dad, especially if parents don't have a history of travel with their jobs. They see mom and dad every night at bedtime.
Yes.
So thinking about how many sleeps can I go, right? So
Yes.
really being child-centered in my language, but I'll have kids go, well, I can go 4 sleeps or I can go 4 days without seeing my dad or my mom. They'll go like, but my dog can't. My dog sleeps in the bed with my mom, but the dog is going to go with me because I love my dog. So my dog is going to be stressed. I mean, I've heard all kinds of just great, fun child-centered answers, which tells me I'm getting really organic, real information on what kids think about in divorce that us as adults, we really don't think about. So we're putting in all the adult information and our worries about our kids in divorce. We're not thinking about what kids think about in divorce.
I remember one case where you reported to us that the child was worried about their hair products
Yes.
and their facial products. And they were like, well, those are at XYZ. So I would have to be there because I want to use my products.
Yes.
It isn't obvious to the child that we could duplicate the
Right.
the product.
Right. Well, that's how a lot of kids feel that play sports. Where is my basketball stuff? Where is my soccer jersey? What if I forget my cleats? Then I need 2 pairs of cleats. Actually, buy me 3 because what if I leave it in the car and then I'm in the wrong car? I mean, kids really worry about kid things. And so honestly, that's one of the things I love most about the child specialist role is they'll tell me those things. Usually, most cases do. I can answer them, give them information that immediately decreases their stress. So in a healthy system, which is the one we're talking about first, right? In those healthy systems, kids leave me, and traditionally, a lot of my cases, they don't need counseling because they got their questions answered.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and then when you give that feedback back to the parents, parents now know really, okay, this is what my kiddo is really worried about. Let me go talk to them. So then I coach parents when I give feedback. If you would have these conversations with your children, I think they're going to be okay. You just got to keep talking about the kid needs.
Do the kids know you're going to tell the parents what they say?
Yes, always. And so my very last meeting with children in the child specialist role, the very last thing I do is recap. Here are the things that I'm going to say to your parents. Do I have your permission? I never want a child to feel like they shared something with me, even though the child specialist is not a confidential role. Our process is, of course. But the interview, I'm here to gather information to give back to the parents. So I always make sure kids know this is what I'm going to say. Some kids go, perfect, great. Other kids have said, don't say it like that. You'll make, X mad or X sad. And then they'll help me script how they want me to present it because they know their parents best.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so let's switch gears to The less healthy family.
Yes. So the less healthy systems, right? If we have mental health issues, a parent with anxiety or an addiction issue, or, a lot of times in collaborative, I will be brought in somewhere in the process because a concern has come up. And so a lot of those cases, not only do they want me to gather the information needed for their decree, right? Schedule, summer, holidays, all the additional topics that we talk about in our parenting plan. But they may need me to explore very specific themes. And so, how I like to do that is I tell the team, don't tell me what the concerns are, just tell me the macro.
Don't tell you the specific allegations.
Correct. That way, there's no bias. I have to just go in and do a forensic interview, ask non leading questions, right? Because I don't have any information other than, Jennifer, there is a concern about addiction. Well, I don't even know what addiction means. Is that alcohol? Is that marijuana? Is that sleeping pills? I have no idea.
You don't know which parent.
I don't. Or is it
everybody?
Right.
Or is it the child?
Right. And so, through all the forensic trainings I've done, I know how to go in, gather that information, so everything I know, I truly only know because this is what the children reported, which also gives me, I believe, the most credibility back to mom and dad on, okay, kiddo said XYZ, and so this is what their concerns are. And then that's where I can make recommendations, not schedule or anything forensic, but can help with any type of mental health recommendations. Your kiddos do seem really stressed about alcohol use. They might benefit from counseling. Or, hey, mom and dad, based on what the kiddo reported and the amount of times they're scared while you're driving a vehicle after 2 margaritas, right? Then I'm taking that back to the team to be addressing on, do we have something that really does need to be filtered into the process?
So how do you give the feedback to the parents? Is the team present? Are the lawyers present? Are both of the parents there together?
Well, so the beauty of collaborative, right? Every case is unique. So usually I prefer the entire team to be present. Sometimes the financial neutral won't come because it's added cost that may not be beneficial unless there's a huge money component to the children's feedback, which sometimes there is, especially with college age kids.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the financial neutral does want to be there. And sometimes the financial neutral has donated their time just to hear the feedback. So they just stay fully informed as a team member. So I've had financials do it different ways. I prefer the mental health neutral and both the attorneys to be present, because if you're not, I can't control what the clients say back to their attorneys. And then their attorneys
Right.
always have follow-up questions, which ends up costing more in the long run because they have to do more to
different, right?
Yes. So how I did it 18 years ago when we really started the process, I used to try to be very cost aware and only gave feedback to the parents and the mental health. And then we realized it actually cost more because then they went to their attorneys. That was billable hours. Then they went to...
They weren't accurate reporters.
Yes. And then they go ask the mental health neutral, what did you hear? Or they're calling me and now you're billing. But so I found, and usually my feedback I can do in an hour. And so, well, that one meeting for an hour, right, just can be costly. It is still so much more effective. And honestly, I really get to control how the minutes are reading to make sure things truly are captured that I think may be relevant 6 weeks from now when you're finalizing your parenting plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go back and what did the kids really say about X schedule or Y schedule? And so I like the team, especially for the minutes.
I like being there because I can then, if my client is misremembering, because maybe they didn't like something you said, I can say, no, I think she said blah, 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 blah. So I think it's helpful in that regard. Okay, let's back up. We're at reporting, but let's talk about the beginning of the process. So let's say that the clients have agreed that this would be a good case for a child specialist and both lawyers are recommending it. And so we all agree and we hire you, we add you physically on a piece of paper to the team. What do you do first before you start meeting with the kids?
Great question. So it's usually one of two things, right? Because I actually have like a CS roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
And so the very first thing I do when usually I get an email, hey, Jennifer, we need you to join the team.
Mm-hmm.
I usually say, am I just doing my thing or do we need a team call? Usually it's go do your thing.
Yes.
Every now and then a team will say, we've had a crisis. we actually need a team call. So that's always my first kind of point of entry.
Mhm.
And so if it's Jennifer, go do your thing, then the MHP and I prefer to have the MHP present. My very first appointment would be a meeting with the parents. I like the MHP to be there to gatekeep the information, to keep me out of client narrative, and to not give me specifics. But I found that appointment has been really helpful to do. One, they get to meet me, ask questions about me, how I do my process. Are the children, if there's more than one, are we doing sibling work? Am I interviewing them separate? And I get to ask a lot of questions about the children's personality, temperament. Are there any learning differences? Are they high anxiety? Are they a slow to warm up kid? Or are they like totally an extrovert like we are? And they're going to come in just telling me everything I need in 20 minutes. So,
And they need to know what to tell the kids is about to happen, right? So it helps you to educate the parents enough
yes.
and give them a little script. I got to do this once with Jennifer because our MHP was not available to do it. So I got to sit with my client and Jennifer and it was very informative for me to understand, oh, that's what she does.
Yes.
But that's part of it is they have to go tell the kids they're going to go talk to somebody about something, right?
Right. Well, and that's the other part. The other cases where I don't do the MHB, there have been several that a crisis has happened. So I needed the MHP and myself into different parent meetings, or we did have to invite the attorneys. So the one with you, the MHP wasn't present, but I have other cases where the MHP had to come to both to be the neutral who said she said the same thing in both meetings, but both attorneys had to come
Wow.
because we were just having high
High
conflict,
conflict, high convert.
Yes. And so that's what I'm saying. That's the beauty of the process is I can tailor my decision making to what the needs are of that specific case. But traditionally, it's a 1 hour joint meeting. I answer questions. I script how to introduce my process to the kids. That way I do have some control over how I'm kind of unveiled to the kids to make sure they know it's safe. I'm a
Say this,
helper.
don't say
Mhm.
this.
Right. Absolutely.
And you mentioned part of your process is to determine are you going to meet with the kids together
Yes.
or individually? So, how would you decide that?
Okay, great question. I always start with kids together, usually for, again, cost to introduce myself, develop rapport, explain my role, talk about confidentiality. If the kids are all teenagers, then I usually ask, how do you feel about doing the interviews together? Does anyone want individual time? And then I start gathering information on what they want and what they prefer because I do try to honor that if budget allows. Sometimes budget doesn't allow, and it's like, no, we say to interview together, or it's time sensitive. We need facts quick. Then I may write those. Also help factor in how I do it. But the main thing I'm looking for, uh, do children do normal sibling talk? So let's say I ask hypothetical, like, tell me your thoughts around the 225. How does this one feel to you? I'm going through those questions. And one says, that makes sense, or I love it. And the other one goes, I don't. That won't work for me. It's confusing. I don't understand it. I don't want that many transitions. Or as long as I've got kids kind of arguing and doing normal sibling conversations, then I feel like I'm getting organic information. If I have one sibling that does all the talking, I have to separate.
Talks for the sibling.
Yep. Then I know I'm
We
separating.
believe, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. So you're really in that very first meeting, that's what I'm assessing. Communication patterns, sibling dynamics. Is everyone talking? If the parents have already told me I have a high anxiety, ultra shy, sweet pea, and then I've got a ADHD, hyperactive, talks over everyone, I'm probably going to separate those kids.
I see.
But I would most likely try to give a lot of education joint and then separate, ask clarifying questions. Now that we have some time alone, I'd like to go back to your answer. Do you feel different? Do you have any thoughts that are different? Right? So they get kind of an opportunity. If I feel like they're talking over each other or someone is talking for the sibling group, I'll divide immediately. So it really is children specific, but I'm definitely trying to assess for that.
So normally you would be working with children, meaning they're under 18,
Yes.
because that's who is before the court and that's who we're trying to get a schedule for. But I know that there's been times when you've worked with college age kids.
Yes.
Tell a little bit about that.
So I'll talk about college kids, but I'll also let you know I've had cases with the children of the divorce in their 40s that I still had to interview and spend time with because they were our shadow figures.
Oh,
And
not
they were
just college kids.
so I've actually the oldest child in the child specialist role. I had 3 siblings that were all in their 40s.
Wow.
That was brought into the process because they were already part of the process, and we needed to bring what was being said out into the open. And so they brought me in to spend time with them. But the MHP wanted to not get into those muddy waters. So really, the child specialist can be used for many things, but it is used a lot for college age kids, especially if there's younger siblings that are still under 18, but the firstborn or secondborn is in college. I find bringing them in is extremely helpful for a few reasons. One, they think about things a little differently because they've been on their own and a little bit more autonomy and independence. They'll really give me a lot more adult-like information regarding parents' marriage, divorce. If there is a history of a mental health concern or addiction concerns, I usually get a lot more information. But I get to give them the same education. When you come home, summer, holidays, spring break, if your kids are on these schedule, your siblings, sorry, not children, but if your siblings are on these schedule, how do you feel about following the schedule? Do you think about your own schedule? Do you want to make those decisions on the fly? And they also get the same support to ask their questions.
Yes, it's not like they don't have questions just because they're in college. And they probably have more financial concerns at that age.
You read my brain. That's exactly what I was going to say. They typically have a lot more questions about budgets. Who do I go to? How do I talk to my parents about this? Because, right? I mean,
Yes,
money
is
versus
college still going to be paid for? I
Absolutely.
would be worried. I mean, we forget that human beings immediately think about how does this impact me?
Right. And a 19-year-old is no different. My parents are divorcing and I live 3 hours away, or I live across the country, or I wanted to do, study abroad next year. Is there going to still be money for that if my parents are divorcing? I mean, there's a lot of questions that young adults will still have. And I always tell kids, right, especially in therapy, as long as you're on your parents' payroll, are you really an adult? I know legally you are at 18, but are you? Little my sense of humor.
It's a fiction that 18 to 25 is they're still a child in many ways.
Yeah.
Their frontal lobe is not fully developed.
They still need support.
Yes.
Divorce will still impact them, even though they're not living on the schedule. But in reality, when they come home, especially when they come home for summer, their siblings are on a schedule.
Yeah.
And so asking them the same questions about the schedule, what does this look like for you? How do you feel about all of this? Is really, I think, relevant.
Now, you also sometimes serve in the neutral mental health role in a collaborative case.
Yes.
Why isn't the neutral mental health professional doing all this as part of their role? Why do we need 2 different roles?
So this is definitely my opinion and my biases. But talking about biases, if you're the neutral mental health, right, you are truly neutral. And if you interview the kids as the neutral mental health, which is still a neutral interview, and I know that, and the LMHBs know that, right? We do. However, if the child says something like, I'm making it up, but let's say dad last week spanked me and here's a bruise, and they show it. Well, what does that look like in your neutrality when you go to give that feedback? Or if you have to make a CPS report.
Right.
And so
neutrality's shot.
That's right. So now the whole case is in jeopardy. It disrupts process. And so for me, while I think in other states, right, everybody does it a little different. We all look at different boundaries and different biases. I just look at the optic of the client. Even though I know Honey, Robin, Katie, like all of our, really great LMHBs, which there are many, many more I didn't just name. But do I think they could do it? Absolutely. Should they do it? No, I don't think so. And I don't think I should either if I'm the LMHP, only because the protection of the neutrality, protection of process, relationship with mom and dad, right, who are your clients. I don't know. I'm very passionate about that boundary.
And the MHP, the neutral MHP, has more things going on. They're facilitating the entire process. They're facilitating every meeting, even if it's about financial. They're managing that emotion in the room so we can get the deal done. So your role as child specialist is much more finite.
Absolutely. And that's why I like the MHP in my intake and in my feedback, because they really are we kind of joke about, they're the COO of all the meetings and the process.
Yes.
And while I know we're all professionals, but I still, a part of me explains it as there's a little bit of a hierarchy. I want that LMHP to still stay in that COO role, and I'm coming in as a helper. Is really how I see I'm here to support the process and bring in data, like a business evaluator or an appraisal done on your marital home, right?
Yes, finite role.
Yes, and that's why it all goes back to boundaries and potential biases. I really want that LMHP to stay in that COO role.
I love this role because I think it's such a huge gift to give the children this education where they are not having to worry about when they're talking to their parents about any of this. They have to worry about the emotion, hurting their parents' feelings, even asking questions is loaded, right, with that relationship. So I think it gives children such a great opportunity to gain information, ask their questions without worrying about all that emotional path, and to get some information to the parent. I've never had a case where I thought, oh, that was a waste of time. And every time I thought, oh my goodness, how fabulous for this family that they utilize a child specialist. And it's not a huge additional cost.
Right.
Because you do it so efficiently, but you're getting really great, helpful information. And every time that I've used child specialist, which has been many times, the clients had been very happy they did it. Do you think that's true? Has that been your experience?
Yes.
Because they want the information, even if some of it does kind of hurt somebody's feelings.
And I think that's where everyone's soft skills come in. I do have to deliver really tough information in some of our cases. As you know, we've had those cases. So using all of your mental health skills in this role, when you give that feedback, to be able to do that lovingly and genuinely with your soft skills, we can deliver difficult information in a very kind way that even though I know we need to talk about, hey, mom, or hey, dad, I'm worried the kids are reporting, they're counting 3 wine bottles at the end of, every Friday night. So Saturday morning when they wake up, there's 3 wine bottles and they're worried about that, right? There are very nice, loving ways to be able to say, I'm worried about your alcohol use. Do we need to start talking about that? Or whatever the issue is.
Sometimes people say, well, we don't really need it because we're not high conflict. We're a healthy family. I think mom and dad, we're going to be able to come to agreements. And in my opinion, it's such a small cost to both educate and get information. It's still worthy. I don't think you have to wait till your family's broken to benefit from this.
Oh, right. And I would say, a lot of my cases, if not 50%. I've never done an audit, but maybe I will if I come back. A lot of my cases are very healthy, high functioning families and children. And so I've started talking about this with attorneys, that if they're having a hard time explaining the process or selling the process to the clients, is to be able to say, well, you go to parent teacher conferences. You don't wait to talk to your child's teacher until they're failing, right? Especially with kids in elementary. I mean, I know we start phasing that out by high school because we're working on that autonomy, but we still go and gather information. We still talk to the children's pediatrician at the end of a well visit. We don't wait until they have the flu. And so in divorce, right, I do tell, attorneys to, in your own ways, to figure out how to say, well, you are choosing to divorce. The divorce is happening to the kids. And so to be able to spend 2, 3, 4 hours with a child specialist just to understand what's happening, that alone is a gift. And it frees up mom and dad from saying it wrong or not using child-centered language or putting them in the middle. Even the healthiest, high-functioning, well-meaning families, we still make mistakes in divorce, not on purpose, not because we're doing anything maliciously. It's just not our skill set for the majority of us that go through divorce.
The kids are naturally in a loyalty bind immediately.
Of course.
So what do you do in your practice besides these 2 roles we talked about? What else is part of your practice?
Outside of collaborative, I do parent coordination. I'm a parent facilitator. The majority of my work is still considered high conflict forensic counseling. So I do a lot of family therapy for individual individual therapy for children and teenagers, and then I do reunification work.
What's the range of ages you see children?
I typically prefer starting around age 4 or 5. And then my oldest client was 82, and I adored every moment I had with her. But I mean, I do counsel adults in divorce, but I really, really love the kids and the teenagers. They're definitely my jam.
And where is your office located?
I'm off the tollway in far north Dallas, in between 635 and George Bush.
Do you do any of your work by Zoom?
I can.
Optional.
I can. I've done child specialist work around the state, and so I've been able to interview a lot of kids in all different communities.
Oh, that's great. And that's helpful because there's sometimes where it's not convenient.
Yeah.
And that could be the hang up, right? Is, oh, these kids are really busy, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure in person is preferred when we can. And you do have a therapy dog that they enjoy.
Yes, yes. Everybody loves Monty. I should have brought him.
I know we could put on this show.
I know. I didn't think about that. Yeah. The kids do love the therapy dog for sure.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for being on this show. I'm so happy to get the word out about child specialists because
Thank you.
I think it's hard until a lawyer has experienced it in one of their cases. It's hard for them to sell it because they don't even understand it themselves. So I think this will be helpful for lawyers and for the general public who might be thinking about divorce or going through divorce.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me and allowing me to talk about what I really am most passionate about is just taking care of children in times of change. So thank you.
You're the best.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening. Please tune in again next time.